Welcome back to episode 82 of the Potter Discussion. I'm host Oscar, and on today's episode, we will be discussing what should change about the Triwizard Tournament. Let's do this. Welcome back to the Potter Discussion. I am so excited to be recording today because we are talking about the Triwizard Tournament, one of my favorite parts of the entire fourth book, and I dare say the entire series. Yeah, I'd say that, but the entire Harry Potter community was so let down by the fourth movie. The book was fantastic, and to prepare, I even read it again because I wanted to really get the full feel of it. But when I was watching the movie, it was horrible. And I say that in the best of ways. It was great, but it was so disappointing. The Triwizard Tournament was so cut down, and yes, all of the core things were there, but Harry Potter is such a good thing because it has all those little parts, and take it away and it's really tough to make a good story. They did. I'll give them that. The Harry Potter crew really did a good job with the fourth movie. I just was a little let down by how little they actually kept in. But that's for another episode. But today we're going to be changing the Triwizard Tournament. For those who don't know, the Triwizard Tournament happens every couple hundred years, where 3 schools of magic get together, and each school produces one champion to compete in 3 dangerous tasks for the prize of 1,000 galleons, which I think is a surprisingly low amount of money in the real world. I saw a chart, and oh my gosh, that chart was so weird. Apparently, it was put out by Pottermore, and what it said was a galleon is $7. That's what it said. And if you're not in the U.S., that's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. So how could the Weasleys have only had 1 galleon? In the second book, they only had 1 galleon in their vault, and there's a pile of sickles. How did that work? That's plot convenience. I don't know, something weird happened there, but that's a thing. And it's kind of strange that a galleon isn't that much, but still, in the wizarding world, like, maybe the inflation isn't that bad, so maybe $7 is still a lot there, but whatever. That was a tangent, but let's get on track here. Maybe some of you have already noticed, but there are 2 new links in the show notes. One for a voice submission to this very show, and second to a Google form to fill out. So if you have any feedback, questions, if you have ideas, if you have something that you want to be played on the show live, go ahead and click those 2 links. If you want to do something special, be involved, have your voice be on the show. If you don't want to share something like that, just go ahead and do the form. It's completely just text, nothing too personal, so you won't have to put yourself out there too much. So perfectly fine if you want to do that. If you don't, great, keep on listening. But let's get into this episode. So the Triwizard Tournament is good, but that's not why I'm changing it. I want to get this out of the way, that I think the Triwizard Tournament is fantastic, but the book was so much better than the movie, and I think we can all agree the movie cut so much, and I was really disappointed hearing and seeing all the stuff that wasn't there. So it was good. I just couldn't help noticing all of the things that weren't there, like all the boggarts. There were so many boggarts in the book, and the creatures, the spells Harry had to learn. I mean, that's some serious magic. That's good material. But alas, they didn't include it. But we can just ask ourselves, why? Why? And I wish there was more to it, but unfortunately there isn't, and there's no going back, but all we can do is think what we would have wanted, and that's exactly what I plan to do today. So the first thing that I would change is the point system. The point system is very biased. The judges are the headmasters of the other schools, and they could favor their school so much. And we saw that to a very large extent. I think Madame Maxime, Dumbledore, Percy, and maybe Snape was the other judge, they did pretty well. I think they were completely neutral, and they gave points where points were due. But there's a one outlier, Igor Karkaroff. To say the least, he wasn't exactly fair. Harry made a fantastic grab of the golden egg in the first task, but Karkaroff only gave him a 4. A 4 out of 10. I mean, come on. I think Dumbledore gave Harry a 9. Ludo. Ludo was the other judge instead of Snape. Ludo gave him a 10. Percy gave him an 8. Madame Maxime gave him a 9. But Karkaroff gave him a 4. A 4. No, why'd I say that? No, not Ludo Bagman. Crouch. Maybe they're both on, though. But, okay, I haven't gone to that part. Come on, please. I only started reading it like 2 nights ago. But, yeah, okay, so there were judges, and the bottom line is a lot of them gave him really high scores, except for Karkaroff. And it's horrible because it's so easy to do it. It's so easy to cheat those kinds of things because other people don't know what goes on in your head. You can't tell them I'm making these decisions not based on the performance, just based on my own personal gain. And that's just something that is really messed up, man. And I don't know why he did it, but I don't know. We'll just have to move on and never think of it again. Another, kind of easy way for the point system to be breached is, the judges aren't really picked for their judging abilities. They're picked for their abilities to be there and be, a figure of importance. Like Dumbledore, of course, all the headmasters, and then the organizer and a guest. That's it, but it isn't from, this is a really great judge, I think we should have this person on. No, it's, this person is great and important and really popular, let's have them on the show. Well, the tournament. I just say the show because this is a show. The judges seem to be picked based on their popularity and not on their actual ability to see and recognize skill and assign it a number up to 10. And that's just something that I think they should look for more, because that's important. That's important. That's the entire idea. If the judge doesn't really know how to give points in a good way, they're going to have some problems. And they did. But I think it's supposed to be, another part of the magic of the tournament. But not in the sense of, wow, these are people giving us scores out of their own minds. No, it's out of the fact that you might do really well, but then get a really low score. So it isn't out of, wow, let's give these kids, a good time, show them camaraderie, give them a lesson on how to be good people. No, it was more, all right, here's how you get points off of doing absolutely nothing. It was not at all like the let's have fun, like Hermione thought. It was of we have to win to get this glory for our school. And I can understand that they would want, the glory, the winning, the title for hundreds of years. But all that aside, there's so much more. And on this part, I agree with Hermione. Although it doesn't seem to turn out that way, I think the tournament was built just to meet new people and, do all that kind of thing. So, although it might seem like that, it is. And that's just kind of what I'm thinking. But let's move on. Thank you for that beautiful composition. Man, what a beautiful piece. But we're moving straight on into our next point, of which we will talk about. And that just so happens to be, it's a little, dangerous. As in, you might die dangerous. If you don't know what I mean, the Triwizard Tournament is Okay, I was gonna say a little, but I figured no. It's a lot dangerous, and I know that Dumbledore said, you have to be 17, and Barty, was like, yes, the Ministry said so, but, I mean, still, in the grand scheme of things, 17 really ain't that old, and they were kind of adamant that 17-year-old, perfectly fit, completely fine, enter, boom, you're fine, but no, it's not quite that much. They just assume that one singular chain with an S can hold a dragon. Clearly they were wrong, and clearly it backfired because the Hungarian Horntail blasted out of the chains in, 2 minutes? So, it isn't exactly a safe way to compete in a quote-unquote friendly way, and it seems as if they didn't quite think through that it isn't like they can just press the pause button and move all the pieces around. They have to be there real time, figuring out everything. And that's hard. If you've ever played chess before, you'll know that you have to keep track of every piece. And if you don't, you're likely going to lose. So that's kind of what they were doing. But every single student is a chess piece, and every single factor is the queen. So they have to figure out exactly how to position everything correctly, and then move in and press play. But the only problem is the play button is behind bars. So where am I going with this? I don't know. The point is, why'd they do that? It's so dangerous. But they were just throwing in kids like it was nothing. And I know they didn't take it lightly at all. Even Dumbledore said he wasn't like, I found to die a very painful death, put your name in. No, he was like, really serious, this is bad, and if you really want this, you're gonna have to try. But even for Dumbledore, it was strange. And I say that with the Dumbledore scheme in mind. Was that part of Dumbledore's plan? I don't know. You have to listen to the fourth one again, because I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But Dumbledore seemed to be really okay, like strangely, compliant with the way it was going. Even in, I think, especially in the movie, with all the things going on, Dumbledore was fine. He was like, yeah, it's, tough, but whatever. And he was serious for, his Dumbledore, but still. I mean, it isn't something you can just pass off and say, yeah, sure, it's fine, just go ahead, do it. So, it's a little bit of a tough decision. So, I think they kind of did it. They kind of did something that was okay, but it was still unbelievably dangerous, and they just left people to their devices without any kind of, here's how you do it. No, it was just, this is what you have to do, so go and do it. Without any supervision, without any, training even. It's illegal. They explicitly state that you cannot share information, you can't rely on other people to train, you cannot do all those things. Which just makes it even more complicated because you have to figure out everything yourself, which just doubles the trickiness of this entire thing. So it's insanely dangerous. So they could just bring down the danger knob a bit. I think that their danger knob is broken. They put it up too high. So they could just bring that down. I think, they could have a pretty good tournament if they did. Whoop-de-doo! We are back, and I got another, reason for you. And that is, it takes so much time. And this may come as a shock, but I was doing some digging in that time. It was just a couple seconds for you during the beautiful chord, but not for me. I found out that each task took more than 100 hours to set up. And hours to complete, perform, whatever you want to call it, by the champions. That's a lot of time. That is a lot of time. And I don't know why they spend that much time on the Triwizard Tournament. I know it's this big thing that is really important, but I just didn't think it took that long. I mean, sure, maybe a couple hours here and there, but not hundreds of hours and multiple hours on top of that to perform for the champions. So it was just such a shock to me to see how much time it took, and that's taken out of their education. That's taken out of the time that they would have spent learning. So even the champions who didn't win get a horrible education, like really bad. But even on top of that, so foreign schools travel to meet each other, but they don't go to a place where they can learn. Only the home school really has good learning that stays in their curriculum. But the foreign schools, what do? I mean, sure, they might have little sessions here and there with their headmasters, but I don't know. It seems a little strange for these schools to gather like this without a plan of how to actually learn. But I can see, okay, I will take devil's advocate for a second, and I can see how that would work. I mean, it's a fun thing to, go and compete and learn and do all this fun stuff, but how do you learn? How do you learn with your giving your heart and soul into these challenges? And that's just for the champions. But for the rest of the schools, it's a lot. They can't exactly just join the curriculum for a year. And, well, not to mention even less because the tasks take so long. But joining that kind of thing and making that kind of thing happen just seems like it's not worth it. And I know it's this whole big thing, the Triwizard Tournament, but it just feels like to spend that much time doing that many things, it just doesn't seem like something that is, no, you couldn't really keep it up for that long. So that's my other, not really that great. But I do think it is doable if they try. If they try to make the education good for that year, I think they would have succeeded. But they didn't try because all the budget went to making the tournament happen. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's, of course, the big cost, and I'm glad they recognize that it is a big deal that they had to make sure was perfect. But I just don't think it was recognized the way it should have been. Education is the whole point, learning and growing and, being a good person. That's the entire point of the Triwizard Tournament. But if you can't even do any of those things, what's the point? I don't know, and we'll have to just keep talking. Wow. Oh, we're recording. Well, I was just going through my book for some talking points, and the one I wrote was, endangers other students, only include the champions. So that's what we're going to talk about, I guess. But it's true. It is true. The Triwizard Tournament endangers not only the champions, but the other students too. And it's kind of hard to fathom that it is that much of a danger, but all of the students involved, and the teachers too, are in very large amounts of danger, especially in the first task. It was tough. So they weren't that far away from the dragon, and one burst of fire, and dozens of people could, be turned into chicken nuggets. So it's a little bit of a dilemma. The students have to watch somehow, but how to do that? No one really knows, so they just put them there and hope nothing bad would happen. The only catch is something bad is going to happen. So they can't just stop everything, have all the students go out there, and have all the teachers constantly watching, so vigilant, and just waiting for the moment to strike. I don't know. That's a little bit of a strange situation. We even saw how close the dragon was to the other students when it broke out of its chains. It flew up and it broke like the whole thing. The canopy was gone. Shards of wood, splinters, I'm sure a ton of people got splinters. Big ones, too. Shards of wood, things coming down. There could have been a jumble. And not to mention the Hungarian horn tail. Its tail was near them. It was... And I don't know, I think there might have been a clip where the tail almost hit someone. So it's just so close to danger. And I don't know what they're thinking in thinking that this is a good idea. This is going to be fine. No, nothing bad is going to happen, I think. This is going to be a good idea, and everyone's going to be fine. I'm just going to leave... All right, I'm going to give you a moment to let that sink in. They had a dragon with a chain holding it down. And basically the entirety of 2 of 3 magical schools sitting maybe 50 feet away from it. It is angry, and it is protecting its eggs. Did it sink in yet? It did for me, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening with those people. They think that a protective mother dragon chained down with one singular, again with an S, chain. A collective sigh for that moment. Just a collective why. Why did they think that was a good idea? I have no idea, and I will never have that idea. I will never know why they thought one chain could hold a ginormous protective dragon protecting eggs with students around. One chain and a little fly. It's like when a fly is flying around your head, you just want to swat it because it's annoying. But that's Harry to the horntail, and the horntail wants to swat it while protecting its eggs and while trying to get out of its chains. And I gotta tell you, they did all those things. The Hungarian, saying that fast is really tough. The Hungarian horntail really did a good job, and it's kind of bad because a good job from that perspective means it's a bad job from the other perspective. So the students got a scare, everyone got a scare, and it's only luck. It's completely luck that nothing really bad happened. So it is definitely a trade-off of entertainment, learning, all that kind of stuff. But let's move on. Okay, so another big factor in this success of the tournament is the rivalry. That's a big part because it is there all the time. I mean, when I say all, I mean all of the time. And that's unfortunate because the tournament is supposed to be about meeting new people and, making friends. But it definitely did not turn out that way. And we saw even inter-school, even inside of the schools, the same body, they were fighting a lot. And yes, I will say that was due to the fact that Harry and Diggory were chosen at the same school, and they were divided on who they thought was the better champion. But I still am a little skeptical that even in a normal year, maybe an enemy of a person was chosen, and that person might not want that person to win. Okay, that was confusing. Person A is really mean to person B. Person A is chosen. Person B doesn't want person A to win. What does person B do? Root for the other team. But they're on person A's school, so how does that work? The magical word of the day: rivalry. Bum bum bum. But it's true. The whole idea is you get picked and you go on this magical journey with your friends, well, or not with your friends, I should say, and you do all these cool things, but the only problem is every single person, hundreds of people, are constantly trying to get you. And when I get you, I mean cast horrible curses and mess you up and sometimes do something even worse. So it just is asking for a bad situation, and in some cases, I think it just might get it. It is very apparent that all the schools aren't just, one happy little family and they have this fun little, friendly competition. No, not at all. It is three major schools battling almost to the death. And I'm not exaggerating. When I say a battle to the death, sometimes a battle to the death is just about as literal as you can get with the Triwizard Tournament. So it is a battle to the death between three major magical schools. You can't expect there to not be magical rivalry. You can't think that there might be some people who do bad things. It's designed that way. That is how it's supposed to be. In the rule book, it even says it is okay to cheat. That is part of the game. But if you're caught, they will say, sorry, nah. And okay, maybe it's not like, yeah, go cheat, woo. It's more, cheating is kind of a tradition, not you're supposed to. But it's still a strange thing that cheating is almost encouraged. Doing bad things to the other champions just so you can further your own game is something that I think is really common, but unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's a thing. But even so, it's not exactly a family-friendly competition, and a lot of bad things happen to a lot of good people. So it's really unfortunate when someone, something bad happens to that someone. But that is a perfect segue into my next topic. Sorry, no beautiful melody, but this is just too perfect. And that's the prize money. You might be thinking, that's a lot of money. It's 1,000 galleons, and in Wizard World, that might be a lot of money. But it's not. It is something that is worth less than it actually is. So, if you think about it, 1,000 galleons is 1,000 galleons nonetheless. And that is a substantial prize, and that's something that you could live off of forever, in the Wizarding World at least. So, but it's strange. It is strange that is the prize and it's just, ending. That's it. And it causes a lot of problems. And we even saw already, Harry gave Fred and George the prize money to start a joke shop. And you might be saying, well, how was that a problem? Well, it caused secrets and dispute. And money always does that. When there's a large sum of money given to someone who is young, especially someone like Harry, the famous Harry Potter, people try to do stuff. And Harry was lucky. Nothing happened. But it could have been stolen. It could have been, Harry could have, went to the Hogsmeade, went to the bathroom and just to find that his money was being gambled away by some stranger who had picked it up. So it's strange that the $1,000 prize is just so widely given, and it isn't seen as something that is bad, but it is seen as the greatest honor. And I don't know, 1,000 galleons, that causes problems. Just to have a bag, nothing else but walls, and this is literally just walls to protect it. Walls down, maybe in a trunk. Panels of wood and stone. That's what's protecting this big pile of, pretty bad stuff. And Harry did use it, I think one of the best ways he could have, but that is still a lot of money, and that could have caused a lot of problems. So I think Harry was definitely mega lucky that nothing bad happened, but it's still tough to think how much could have happened if the situation hadn't worked out in Harry's favor. And I think a lot could have happened. That's pretty bad. That's not exactly suitable for, a school. I don't know. That money could have been, it's a hot spot. It is a beacon that is just calling trouble. I think that's the best way we can put it. It is just calling trouble, and it wants to be stolen. It wants to be stolen. It wants to be gambled. It wants to be taken. It wants to be all those kinds of things. And that's just part of the prize. The tournament never stops. It just pauses. So for Harry to win that, but then give it away, I think he was unknowingly putting that burden on the Weasleys. But because the Weasleys weren't the center of attention, nothing bad happened to them. It was lucky, but there's still other problems with this tournament, so we should move on. Okay, so we're moving on, and we're going right into one of the biggest problems. And that is, okay, forgive me for saying this, but the tournament doesn't have a point. And I can already sense the beratings that you're thinking right now, but okay. Here is my defense. All of the good positive things are completely canceled out by the negative things, and it becomes a negative product because of it. So let's just run through the things. So we have, the main, this is what the tournament is, and that is meeting new friends, meeting new people. But that's not exactly what happens. As we have discussed, the rivalry that goes on between schools and in the schools is just way too much to hold that friendship, to continue making friends and making bonds. It's way too much for the rivalry and the friendship to be in the same thing. So you can't be friends and enemies with someone at the same time. You have to choose one. And that's exactly what happened. But the only problem is everyone chose both. So no one could choose at all. And that's exactly why almost nothing came out of the friends and rivalries category. And next up we have the tasks. So I've been calling them challenges for some reason, but I just call them the tasks now, I guess. So the tasks are great. And first glance they seem wow, nice and safe and easy and wow, but I don't know. So we have the positive side of things. You have a predetermined clue that you can use to help you through the maze, and not that I'm just thinking about the maze, but through any task, and how that can, you can use your strengths, you can use whatever. But that's the positive side. The negative side is it's likely not going to be what you figure out. So that means the clue doesn't really do anything. And even if you're right, how could you prepare? How could you do something like that? So it's still a very much of a take and a little bit of a give, but the give is so much more powerful than the take, canceling out both. So that's 2 categories down. Then we have the prize. The prize is money. 1,000 galleons, and as we've already discussed, that causes a lot of problems. Stolen, gambled, all these other reasons. And right off the bat, we don't even have an explanation. That is a bad thing, and that brings its score into the negatives. But then there was one little singular thing that might bring its score up, bring the tournament score up, and I think it does, and that is the glory. And I don't mean bravery or, I didn't, and you didn't. It's the glory for your school. That is the only good thing about the tournament, in my opinion. What you get in return. So, Harry Potter won the Triwizard Cup. Maybe, of course, all the details aren't exactly important in this situation, but Hogwarts went on as the official champions of the Triwizard Cup forever, for hundreds of years. And, of course, we don't know the canon after the 7th book, but it really shifted, and we don't know what happened. So we can just assume that the Hogwarts was the champions for a very, very long time. And they only shut the tournament down before Harry did it because someone died. But no one died, so we can assume that they did it again and developed a schedule. But with wizards, a schedule is like, I'm going to go out to groceries in 1,000 years. So we can only assume that it happened a while later. So Hogwarts stayed the champions, and they were remembered for it. Yes, maybe the other schools were a little envious, but it's something to look forward to. It's the lore. It's the stories. It's how the parents, it's like what the parents tell their kids. Eat your vegetables to grow up great and strong and compete in the Triwizard Cup. That's kind of what this whole thing is about. It's a thing to bond over, and although the friendship and rivalry kind of canceled out, this almost makes up for it. This is the true prize, the winning for you, for your friends, your loved ones, your family, for your school. It's that is why the Triwizard Tournament has gone on for so long. It is that of why they decided to bring it back again, because it is something that, if done right, can never be done just the same. The Triwizard Cup, all in all, ended with a bang, and it ended with a flash, and a squeal, and crying and screaming, and an awesome band, by the way. That band, so good. But the Triwizard Tournament causes way too much problems. And if we had a choice between do it and don't, I would suggest don't. Yes, there's glory. Yes, but that just isn't enough. And if the glory was the only thing, that was the only prize, I would definitely say go for it. But it's not. So I have to say, I think we would be better off without a Triwizard Tournament. And I'm sorry to say it, but I do think that is the case. And if you think differently, I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion. And I, of course, am referring to the movie. The movie Triwizard Tournament was so bad. So bad. But the book, fantastic. Loved the book one. I'm sure everyone preferred the book over the movie. But that's my opinion. I don't know if you have the same one as me. If you do, let me know. The form submission down below, the Google form, if you want to clickety-clack on your keyboard, or if you want to have your voice on air to let me know your feedback, questions, topics, anything, go over to the voice submission. I'll leave both of those links in the show notes down below. But if you have any questions, comments, or topics you would like to hear on the show, definitely send me an email. My email is thepotterdiscussion@gmail.com. That is thepotterdiscussion@gmail.com. If you could just scroll down in your podcast app of choice, tap those 5 stars, or even leave a written review, that would help me out more than you could ever know, and it helps other listeners find the show. As always, use this information to your advantage, and I will see you later.